Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus in Denver, and today we're doing another daily episode where we talk about a boot or shoe brand. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Chippewa. So come join us and check out what we got for you. So there are a lot of the gentlemen and ladies out there that know about a lot of boot brands, whether they're work boots, outdoor boots, or, just a casual everyday wear boot. Most are familiar with things like Red Wing or even Thorogood, but a lot of you actually, it turns out, are not familiar with the boot brand Chippewa. Surprisingly, this brand has been around since 1901. They've been around for over 100 years. Very, very awesome boot. When I mention this brand to some people out there, they've never even heard of it. It's kind of interesting for me to hear that. So I thought I must make a video on these while I've got this pair of boots in. They're not a very common boot for us to see compared to other ones. So, I only have one at the shop currently at the moment. So we're going to be working with that today. But a little bit of background on the company. Again, Chippewa has been around since 1901. It was founded that year in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. So they've been doing leather made boots for a long time, well constructed and everything. Even back in World War I, they supported the Allied troops and the U.S. Army by making boots for them in World War I. That just comes to show the history behind this brand here. In 1930s, during the Depression, these boots actually did phenomenally. This entire company made it through the Great Depression, and they held up very strong compared to a lot of other boot makers out there in other industries as well. These guys made it through all of that. Come World War II, they were there again. They supported the U.S. Army by making boots for the 10th Mountain Division, which is kind of cool. And still to this day, they make certain models of boots with a lip on the back end that can hook into ski boots. And it was kind of one of those things that they decided to keep on certain models, kind of as just a huge reminder of World War II and how much the U.S. had to fight through it all, and to kind of honor those troops during that time period. And they still make that to this day, which is very cool. So that just kind of comes to show some of the rich history behind this brand itself. A few other things. They made boots for the CIA, the guys that flew the U-2 spy planes, those really old school spy planes that everybody thought were alien probe machines or something. They made up all sorts of stuff. They thought they were UFOs and everything, but it was just a U-2 spy plane. There's nothing secretive about it anymore. It's out in the public, so I can say CIA and U-2 spy plane, thankfully. Otherwise, I'd probably be shut down immediately, but that's still kind of cool to even talk about that. They were through all that. Another awesome thing, and a lot of people don't know about Chippewa, they were actually the very first boot maker in the U.S. to use an Italian-made Vibram sole. So that's one other thing that's really cool. And still to this day, they tend to use Vibram soles. As most of you know, if you're familiar again with Red Wing, if you're familiar with Thorogoods and other boot makers out there that are made here in the U.S. or even not made here in the U.S., a lot of them are starting to come out with their own versions of soles that are kind of a knockoff. You can try to argue with me all you want that, well, this brand makes a better sole than the original Vibram one. No, I've been working with all those soles my entire life. Okay, I've taken them off. I've seen how they wear. I've seen the damage on them, and I've worked with the Vibram soles very closely since I was a little kid. Okay, so you can't argue with me that Vibram is far more superior than a lot of those other brands that are trying to knock off Vibram basically. But Chippewa boots, they still use Vibram on majority of their stuff. I think quite literally almost every pair. It's got to be at least 90+% from everything that I've been seeing. So they haven't sold out on that. Now, I have to use a notepad here to keep a track of everything. There's so much information about this company. Now, obviously, this boot brand is no longer technically like a privately owned company, and it's not their own brand anymore. They are now owned by Justin. Back in 1984, Justin bought them out, but it kind of turned back around in 2000. Justin was bought out by Berkshire Hathaway, so it's a holdings company now at this point. But surprisingly, they're still extremely well made. They are made here in the U.S. They now moved over to Carthage, Missouri, which is still in the U.S. They're using phenomenal leather that comes out of Chicago's Horween Leather Company, which is one of the most well-known tanneries, basically in the world. There are companies outside of the U.S. that buy from this particular tannery. If you're not familiar with them, check them out. Horween Leather Company. They do phenomenal stuff. They're one of the few companies that work with Shell Cordovan. They do these oiled leathers. Some of you may know them as push-up leather, CXL leather as well. But this company works with them. They do Vibram soles. This one has already been resold here. This was actually the original sole. It was a Vibram Christie sole that we took off. And as you can tell, it's been very well loved. These boots overall have been just worn out like crazy, in other words. But still, they're using top-notch materials that if you're wanting to be one of those people that are like, oh, I want to support American jobs, these boots right here, the Chippewas, they're going to be your ideal boot. Very well constructed, comfortable, obviously, because they're Goodyear Welts. It's going to take a little while to break them in, but you're going to be supporting American jobs basically all around, from the Vibram soles that are made here in the U.S., from the Horween tannery, from the boot making in Missouri. All around, you're going to be supporting American jobs, and it's going to be a phenomenal boot that will make you very happy and proud to be wearing them. As far as sizes and everything, they have very good size options. I mean, for the men's, they have ranging from a 6E to a 14 triple E. Ladies, also there's a smaller selection for the ladies' boots, but that kind of happens when you get into the work boot type of category. But they start about a 5 medium and up, basically. So you've got a good size selection from widths and different lengths as well to be able to choose from, so you could find that perfect fit for yourself. They also do different last shapes too, so you may want to kind of try on a couple of pairs and see which particular last fits you best in certain scenarios too. Now, construction-wise, obviously I'd mentioned the uppers are leather, and they tend to use Horween leather basically on the uppers. Majority of what that you get in one of these boots is a push-up leather or oiled leather. Again, CXL leather, some of you might know, but it's kind of got this oily finish on there, and it's a phenomenal material. Phenomenal finish on a leather because it's very easy to maintain. You don't need to go through and like buff them up and shine them. Quite literally, if you have a very light cleaner and just a conditioner, you could do majority of that work very quickly and very easily, just basic maintenance. As far as any kind of staining or anything, if you drip something on that, because the leather on this is so infused and impregnated with different heavy oils and fats, a lot of those stains and chemicals that if you drop on there won't bind to this leather permanently. It's going to be actually fairly easy to remove and then recondition it. So you're going to have a lot of luck with that upper on these ones for sure. They've got a Goodyear Welt construction. This particular one has a 360, meaning that the midsole or the sole will be stitched all the way around. They have a few versions where they do have a 270 welt, meaning that the welt will stop right here, and then they have a heel attachment basically where they attach it from the inside using nails and a number of different things with a heel rend and everything. And so they have a few different variants of build, but this one in particular is that 360 welt. So you have a lot of options on what kind of sole you can put on these. I mean, if you're wanting that Vibram Christie sole, we could do that. You want a different Vibram sole or even a different brand of sole too, it will accommodate it fairly well. For this gentleman, we did the Vibram Christie sole. We stitched the midsole to these, did the Vibram Christie sole, and then put on the bottom the Vibram Sierra sole. So this has become a very popular build through us. A lot of people have been loving it because they get the great durability and some of that cushion from this Christie sole, along with the durability and traction of that Sierra sole. We actually did a video on this recraft here that will be posted up later, so keep an eye out for that. Which reminds me, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell icon so you can be notified to see what the internals look like on these. Very, very nice. Interior wise, they are a little bit, let me take out these shoe trees here. They're a little bit rougher, I guess you can say. They don't really have a liner, at least on this model. They have a number of models that have great insulation, great liners and everything, but this particular one, it doesn't have quite a liner in there whatsoever. It's got this little heel counter cover on the back to kind of help put these boots on a little more comfortably. They've got a leather insole cover that has a padding on it, which is not very common actually in a number of boots these days if they're constructed like this. The one downside I kind of come across on these ones is, as you can tell on this one, we took off that midsole and it had this funky cushion foam stuff, so they're not filled in with cork, unfortunately. They have been for many years. They were filled in with cork on the inside, so that cork will form nicely and eventually become almost like a custom orthotic. They switched over to this foam, and I don't know exactly when that happened, but I'm not too proud of that stuff there. However, though, if you end up having your boots recrafted by a cobbler, typically that cobbler is going to realize that foam is just falling apart anyways. They're going to tear it out and replace it with either leather or cork. We prefer cork because of a number of great features and aspects to be able to have compared to having a leather inlay, basically, but it's all up to your own decision. If you want leather, if you want foam, if you want cork. Well, if you go through us and you want foam on the inside, I'm sorry, we can't do much. We don't even stock the stuff, and I refuse to order it. Cork is a much better way to go. Give it a little more time to break in those boots, but once they're broken in, they're going to fit just you and only you. So they're going to basically become custom to you. Overall, obviously, it really comes down to your own decision on what you think of these boots as well. Everyone's foot is different. The way it fits, the way it feels. These boots might not work for you, but I get that complaint a lot when somebody comes in and asks, what boots do you recommend? When I start off by saying, at least work boots. When I start off by saying Red Wing because it's the most popular, most common brand out there that everyone knows. There are multiple locations here in Denver around us, multiple other stores that sell Red Wing. That's usually the first one I just mentioned because it's just everywhere. And then I go down and start listing off more. Well, because I say Red Wing first, you have no idea how many people tell me like, oh, I can't wear Red Wing. They don't fit me right. Well, try other brands too. There are other phenomenal brands. Chippewa is definitely one of them. They're one of my favorites. I'm almost at the verge of starting to decide that the Chippewa brand boots are probably my personal favorite above Red Wing and other brands too. So give them a shot, see if they work for you. If they work, great. You're going to have a pair of boots that have great history here in America and still to this day continues to build history here in the U.S. because of all the materials that they use that's supporting American jobs, and that they're still made here in the U.S., where a lot of companies are starting to move overseas. They're moving outside the U.S. past the borders and stuff, so they're starting to even get materials from outside of the U.S. Where Chippewa in particular, they're holding true. Obviously, there are a number of soles out there too that they're not just getting from U.S. Vibram lines. Basically, they've got the Italian, they've got the Chinese line as well, but at least they're still made here in the U.S. obviously, and they're using Horween leather majority of the time. With Chippewa in general, and just about any boot brand, I do recommend if you do buy a particular model or style, look for the Goodyear welted models, just because they're recraftable, they'll last you longer, and there's a number of things that can be done to them to be either customized, upgrade, or changed or altered, where some of the newer models that even Chippewa is coming out with, where they have a molded sole, they might be more comfortable brand new out of the box for you, and you'll love them very well. But you got to think about long term. If you fall in love with these boots and that model gets discontinued, there are a lot of limitations that us cobblers can do, and even the original factory makers, they're going to tell you like, hey, look, we don't resole those, where they can resole this pair because it's Goodyear welted. But the molded style, you send it back to the factory, they can't even do anything about it. They'll do aftermarket stuff as well, and that's if they even take it in. So just kind of bear that in mind when you're shopping around for boots. It doesn't matter if it's Chippewa or any other brand. That's what you want to look for if you're planning to have these boots for many, many years and potentially have different upgrades or changes done to it. Look for that Goodyear welt design, and you'll be a lot happier long term. Out of the box, obviously, they will need a little bit of a break-in period. Break-in time on average on these ones, I've noticed, I don't want to say a couple of weeks basically, but as far as being worn on your feet, probably on average of anywhere, well, because they use an oiled leather, probably on an average of anywhere between, let's say, 10 hours of wear to maybe 40 hours of wear, depending again on the design. Obviously, because of that liner, it's going to take a little bit longer with all those layers of material, where this particular one, because it doesn't have liners in there, it's going to break in a little bit quicker because you got that nice supple oiled finish on there. Always keep boot trees in there if you're planning to also have these for a long period of time. It will help increase the life expectancy of these significantly. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Obviously, there's a lot more. If you want to find out more details about the brand and kind of dig around and snoop around, or if you want to just check out what kind of options, selections they have, or if they have maybe an odd size that you need, go to ChippewaBoots.com. Obviously, you can tell on the box it says Chippewa shoes. That's what they used to be known as, and that was a long time ago, long before I was even born. But since then, they have changed the name to Chippewa Boots, mainly. If you're having trouble accessing it also, you could always go to Justin Boot Company or Justin Brand Boots. Basically go to their website. At the very top, it's got selection of options of the brands that are kind of held by Justin. Justin is the parent company for Chippewa and a number of other brands, but if you're just having trouble, just go to their website as well. Majority of these boots you can find at a lot of Western boot stores also. If you don't have a work boot store near you, if you have a Western boot store around you, you can probably find them there. I know that the boot barns around us, we work with all of them. They tend to carry a number of these Chippewas, so you can check out Boot Barn, Cavender's, Corral, all sorts of Western boot stores. Don't forget about them. Obviously, if you're going into a boot barn or something like that, you're thinking, oh, they only carry Western boots. No, these guys actually carry work boots as well. And, you'll be able to find some of these. Maybe not all of them, depending on where you're located. You might end up going into a boot barn and find way more Western boots than there are work boots, so you might get only a couple of pairs in that store. But I'm pretty sure they can at least order them for you. So just keep an eye out for them. If you want to try them out, go into one of those stores, test them out. There are work boot stores as well, construction work stores where they sell supplies and footwear. So keep an eye out at those places as well, or just order off their website or any reputable location as well. But at the very least, you'll be able to try them on in person and see how well they fit you side by side to other boot brands or maybe other models as well. Again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, questions or comments down below, or go to our website, CobblersPlusCO. If you need to contact us or send us pictures, we'd be more than happy to help. And if you're here in the Denver area, swing on by. We'd love to talk and chat with you and help however we can. And as always, we'll see you next time, and don't forget to hit that notification bell icon to be notified on tomorrow's video. We're trying to keep up with those as much as we can, but obviously life happens. So we'll see you next time.